Hello and welcome. This is an extensive tutorial about the Cubric Vision app. This is for the first version of Cubric Vision. If you did not land here from the Cubric documentation website, you can see that the Cubric documentation website is docs.cubric.studio, and you can navigate there for more information on how to use the app. The website might look slightly different when you land here, as this is my first recording for the app instructions. As you can see, this is where my video is going to land, the video that I'm recording right now. Documentation website is pretty straightforward. Everything you need to know about Cubric Vision version 1 is here. You can simply navigate it. In this tutorial, I'm going to try and make it as short as possible, although it's not going to be short, but I'm going to try and cover most of it. Let's get started. If you haven't downloaded the release yet, you can go to the official GitHub release pages for the app, which can be accessible here in this link up here. Or if you prefer, you can go to our official website where we talk about what Cubric Studio is and the different apps. And here you can check out the Vision page, and the download link is right there. That should take you to our MathPony Interactive Cubric Vision page with releases, which I have none at the moment, but you'll have packages for Windows, Linux, and Mac here that you can download. I should advise that Mac was not tested, so I am a bit dependent on my Patreons to help me test if the Mac installation works well. Think that I'm on the Windows machine, I would download the portable Windows version in a zip file. I would then proceed to extract. And you can extract this to wherever you like. This will be your installation folder. Once extracted, this in here is your full app. You can place this in a different folder in a different part of your system, and you can rename the folder anything you like just Cubric Vision, a pretty name for it. In here, you have a README file with instructions talking about what each one of these 4 files is and does. Basically, the start file will start the application normally. The start with terminal will also spawn a terminal showing you what's happening in the background. The update file will update to the latest version that is available on GitHub. And the update from zip will update from a zip file updater that you've downloaded. This update from zip was mainly created for Patreons who have early access and get builds before they land on GitHub. For this tutorial, I'm going to proceed with start with terminal. Here we go. We have a little terminal here with everything that is happening on the background, and we have the app. So the first time you open the app, you get presented with this screen, which forces you to install ComfyUI. This ComfyUI installation is self-contained within the app engine. So if you already have a ComfyUI installation, you don't need to worry. This is completely separate. The reason why we did this is so that we make sure that everything works and there's no issues with dependencies. Here you can set your models folder. This is the default models folder, which I'll show you in the system where it's going to land in a second. But you can choose a different models folder. What this would do is it would install in a separate folder. So if you have a bigger disk with more space, you can select that. You can change this later on in the settings. But for now, I'm going to leave it as default. I'm going to press install and start the installation. So what this installation is going to do is, as you can see here in the terminal, it's downloading models, it's downloading custom nodes, it's downloading ComfyUI, and it's installing everything for us. In the meantime, you have this documentation link, which takes you to the documentation site if you want to look at documentation while you wait. While it's installing, I would like you to see that 3 new folders were created. User data, this is data that will live from project to project, update to update. Engine is where ComfyUI will get installed, the contained version. And models, it's the default models folder, which you can see already created some models here, including some upscale models that are needed for our models to work. You can add upscale models to this folder, or you can point to a different folder, and I'll show you that in app in a second once it's installed. Let's let it install. This is can take quite a while because it extracts, it installs custom nodes, etc. Once the installation completes, you get a little changelog pop-up. You can press done and proceed to use the app. The app has quite a few hotkeys. Some functions are only accessible through hotkeys. In case you're wondering where the hotkeys are, you can access them in the help menu, and it's also in the documentation website with a bit of a better look to it. I'm just going to maximize this. So this is your landing page, the project page. You can see the version you're at up here, and you can also see it in the About section. I'll try to cover some of the hotkeys in this video. For example, we can start with F11, which maximizes the app. Here you can open existing folders with projects, or you can just drag and drop a folder into this page, and it will add that project to your projects section over here. You can right-click to delete projects, and this will give you an option to also delete files from disk or keep it. Any pop-up in the app can be escaped by using the escape key. Let's go into settings. This first setting, auto start ComfyUI on launch, basically does that. It starts ComfyUI as soon as you start the app. If it's off, then when you use the first time that you use an operation that needs ComfyUI, it will start ComfyUI once. The pixel rendering area here will display either an auto, smooth, or pixel perfect. Pixel perfect will display pixels always, so that you can have a perfect interpretation of the pixels for video and image. Smooth will show it always smooth pixels, which is what you see when you open a video in your operating system or an image. And auto is basically going to give you smooth when it's away from, when you're not zoomed in, and it shows pixels when you're really zooming in, which can be useful for different workflows. This reuse prompt section, it's easier to explain once we are in the gallery page or the history page. For now, I'm going to press ask each time, because it's going to give us a pop-up every time we try to reuse a prompt from a previous generation. And then you can select what you want to use from that previous generation. Down here, gallery reuse source. It's in the gallery, we either use the original entry on what the card was created from, or we use the current one. This is better explained later on. Let's move on for external connections. So ComfyUI starts with this port. You can change the port here. This way you can have a different instance of ComfyUI running at the same time, if you like to do that for some reason. The ComfyUI models path is the same path that we were presented while installing. This is where you can have all your models. You can point these to an existing ComfyUI installation if you like, and all the models there will be available. Keep in mind that the app does not allow you to choose different models when it comes to safe tensors files. For example, you are not allowed to select Flux or select a SDXL model. This is all incorporated into our models, as these models are fine-tuned and sometimes have LoRa's embedded into them. So we decided to go with that approach. You can, however, have LoRa's that you use and upscale models that you can use and select for each process. And here in the LoRa's and the upscale models, you can have multiple folders added here. Because I haven't installed any models, we can go now to the models folder and I'll show you how it looks. So I have not installed any models, but this is the models folder. This is the current models that the first version ships with. You can see we got 1, 2.2. These might look different. I am going to change these images. Now let me explain why you're seeing partially installed for all of these. This is because these models have dependencies that already been installed when we installed config.ui. The way this works is that models use each other dependencies, so there's no repeat dependencies, so that your disk is not filled up unnecessarily. So pressing install on one of these would download and install all necessary things for the model to work. It would download and install any dependency custom nodes with the correct version. It would download, install safe tensors files, upscale models, everything. You don't need to worry about any of that when using this app. Right now, because I already have some models installed in a separate folder, I'm going to come here and browse to that folder. And as you can see, I have some previously installed models here. Well, it doesn't show the models, but these has models in here. So I'm going to select that folder, which has almost all my models installed, if I'm not wrong. I'll select that. And you can see that the LoRa and upscale models folder defaults now to the default one. Of course, you can also add more LoRa's and more upscale folders here. So if I now go back to models, you can see that everything is installed here because I had them previously installed. Apparently 1, 2.2 still has maybe some custom nodes that need to be installed, so I'm going to press install here to finish that installation. And here we go. When you press uninstall, you get this pop-up here, and you can see that we have a good system for garbage collection. So files shared with other models installed with other installed models will be kept. This is checked by default because it will delete the models from disk so that you have a good garbage collection going on. By garbage collection, I just mean that if you want to install a model, it will remove everything that you don't need and keep any dependencies that other models need if needed. So you don't have to worry about looking in folders, removing and installing stuff every time you do an update, like you do with config.ui, for example. So let's open a project that is beefy with a lot of stuff here. It might take a while to open a project if it has a lot of entries in it, like this one. I have 200 entries in this project, which is quite a bit. Okay, so when you open a project, you are presented with this page. This is the gallery page. You can sort your entries from newest to oldest or oldest to newest. You can also sort by images, videos, previews, and favorites. Previews, we'll get to that later. This is exclusive for video previews. Favs is whatever you hearted. So if I come here and heart this one and this one, I go into favs. That's my hearted ones. In the center, you have a little slider that changes the size of the elements in the gallery. This slider can also be triggered by using the minus and plus key on your keyboard. You can also change the size of the UI by holding Control or Command key on the Mac and using your scroll wheel or the minus and plus keys. Down here we have a status bar that gives us information, useful information, for example, about your VRAM, what's being used, and your RAM, system RAM. This button here basically clears your RAM, leaving the models on. If you hold Control and you click this button, it will also unload any models that were loaded. We also have this little button here, and if you look down here, you'll see the information pop up. So this is the two modes for card info. So if right now, as you can see, as I hover each card, I get information. If I press this, then it inverts that state. I get information for all the cards, which can be useful in some situations. And if I hover a card, I only get the like and reuse prompt buttons. Both the gallery page and the history page have a select mode that can be entered by holding down Control or Command key on the Mac and clicking an entry. As you can see, this is the first selected entry, so I got one there, and I am in select mode. So from here, I don't need to click hold command anymore. I can just click cards and create a multiple selection. To exit this mode, I can simply press the escape key. I also have shift select, which will select any cards in between. And there are different options for if one or more cards are selected. For example, if I want to compare two cards, I can select two cards here. So this is an image, and this is a video that was created from that image. So here I can right click and I have compare available to me. So the compare tool allows us to compare images with videos, images with images, and videos with videos. So this is the compare screen. You can see that on the right side we have the video upscale, on the left side an image upscale. We can use the mouse wheel here. We can click and drag, and we can use this to see the difference between the video and the image. Double clicking resets the view, and we can press the X here or just use the escape key to come out of this mode. Another useful thing we can do here is if we select multiple videos, we can right click and choose combine, and these will create one video from these three videos, respecting the order. So here we go. Here are the three videos with the order respected. So right clicking or clicking the context key on an entry simply without being in select mode simply gives you the context menu for that entry, where you can download to a different location or delete that entry or all the selected entries. If I click an entry not in select mode, I will be taken to the workspace, the history workspace. There are two types of history workspace, one for image, which is where I'm at the moment, and one for video. To better understand workspaces, I am going to start a new project, do some generations, and explain what I can remember to make this look simpler. So let's start a new project here. I can name my project anything I like. I can select a different folder. The default folder goes into your documents under Cubric Vision project. So I'll just leave it as default for now. And I'm presented with an empty gallery. So here I can use my prompt to write a nice prompt. I can use this to write my negative prompt. Some models don't really need a negative prompt, but some actually do. Cubric Vision is set up in a way that even SDXL models prefer just a positive prompt, but sometimes you do need to write something in the negative prompt. I mean, if you do, you have that option. But I do advise that when you're writing your positive prompt, you include everything you need to instead of trying to use a negative prompt. So I'm just going to use Whisper Flow because I'm lazy and I don't want to type. So let's come up with something. A woman riding a tiger in a lush forest at night. Heavy rain, cinematic view, high quality composition. Actually, I want to add more things to this because I want more than a line so that I can show you something. Okay, so I just invented something else. You can see that now we have two lines. If I press these here, I can retract or expand the size of my prompt box. So right here we have the current model and the current operation. So SDXL realistic, text to image. If I press this, I get all my options and settings. So here are all the models that are installed. SDXL realistic is the one that we're going to go with at the moment. Here I have a settings cogwheel. These settings allows me to change upscale model and LoRa's per model. So we got 6 LoRa's slots that we can add per model. So if I add a LoRa to the SDXL realistic model, and then I go to another model, and the other model is not going to have the same LoRa, I can independently add LoRa's for each model with its own settings, etc. And then we got the operations here. So the operations are gated depending on what the prompt box has. For example, if I add an image in the prompt box, upscale would be the only option that I would have, for example. Here we got the ratios. I'm going to go with cinematic, so 16:9. And here we have the batches. So let's do 4 batch. So it will create 4 images in one go. So I'll press Q. And because I didn't start Conf UI while starting the app, it's now going to start Conf UI for the first time. You can see here I have QX1, which means there's one item in the queue. I can stop these 4 generations by pressing the stop button. I can clear the queue if there was any more items in the queue. I can queue more generations if I want to. And if you press if you tap the Q key on your keyboard, you have access to the queue here. You can see that this one has a batch of 4, this one has a batch of 4. If I come here and change this to a batch of 1 and queue another one, you can see that now I have one that doesn't have a batch. So the queue is very useful because you can cancel anything you like at any point. So I'm just going to cancel these 2 here. To leave the queue, you can tap Q again, press the X here, or press escape. So you can see the latents are coming in from Conf UI as it's generating. It only displays the first image, doesn't display all the 4 images. But once it's done, we should get 4 different images. You can see the VRAM here. It's using as much as it likes. The bigger the batch, obviously, the more VRAM it's going to run. So it's now generating the last one in the queue, and it generated these 4 here. You are also not limited to using Q and having to press Q every time. Another mode that you have is if you press and hold the Q button, you go into loop mode. So loop mode is just going to keep generating after generation. And while it's running, you can actually change this. So I'm saying there are UFOs in the sky. There are birds in the sky. So the next generation should get me birds, as you can see there. And I can keep changing this. I can change, for example, let's say I want 4x3 now. So the next generation in the loop will give me a 4x3 instead of 16:9. So to exit loop, all I have to do is click loop and it exits it. Also, if I'm in loop mode and I start to see the latent is not what I want, I can just press stop and it starts a new one. So with this, you could leave this doing generations for video, for example, go have a coffee, go to work, whatever, and when you come back, you have 100 or 200 generations ready for you that you can select from. Let's quickly look at the reuse prompt button. Let's say I have a different prompt here, and I have different models selected and different settings, and I click this reuse prompt here. So this shows up because in settings I asked it to show up. Remember in settings in the beginning of the video, I clicked that button. So this shows up, and it's asking me if I want to use the prompt from this generation, the settings, the images, and the model. Obviously, images doesn't apply in this case. This applies for upscale processes and video, like image to video processes. Original and current. Original, it's hard to understand right now because we haven't gone into the history page, but the history page can give us different entries that show up in the gallery. So original would be the original that was created, and the other entries would be modifications that were done, and it would display the current modification. So if I now press apply to apply everything, you can see that I got the prompt here. If I add a negative prompt, that would be carried through as well. And you can see that I have the correct model, the correct ratio, and everything else. Okay, so I liked this image. So let's press it and let's go into the history workspace. So here in the history workspace, we have several tools on the left side. And here we have all the history entries. Right now we only have one entry, which also gives us this reuse prompt, which can be very useful. If I press it and I'll say apply, I get everything that I added, including the correct model and everything else. Right now you can see that the only thing that I can do here is upscale. I cannot detail because I haven't got a mask on. We'll see masks in the future. So for upscale, you have these settings here that you can upscale 2 times, 3 times, 1.5 times. Let's do a 1.5 upscale. If you use this use grid, it will upscale using a grid that automatically selects the best grid for it. If you have enough memory, don't use grid, because use grid sometimes creates seams in the image. Then you got the denoise factor here. So the more denoise you add, the bigger the change will be. So anything above 0.5, 0.50 will be more like an image to image, which can be useful. And below is just a single upscale. If you don't want to see much changes, go below 0.30. It's even 0.15. If you want to see a lot of changes, just move it up closer to 0.5. Let's go with 0.31 here, and I'll press Q, and let's upscale this image. So our little Cubric Studio mascot is there saying, I'm upscaling this. Hang on a second. We get the bar here saying that it's upscaling, and we start getting the latents back from Coffee UI, where we can see what's actually happening to the image as it upscales. Okay, so we got our upscale result back. You can see that it created a new entry saying upscale. We can go back to our entry like that just by clicking it, and we can compare both. If I click on this one, for example, hold shift and click on this one, or I can also use control here to enter select mode and hold control to click a second time. And now I have this menu here. So for now, we're going to use compare, the compare tool in here. And you can see that the upscale is on the right side and the image is on the left side. The order does matter. If I press escape to leave select mode and I select this one first, I'll select this one first and this one second, and then compare. You can see that now the upscale is on the left side, so whatever you prefer. And we can see that this is the upscale version. We can go all the way, and here is where I talked about the pixels, so that you have pixel perfect. If you don't want to see pixels, you can change that in the settings to smooth. So we got an upscale. We got a bit more pixels to work with. And we can continue working on this, or we can go back here and do a different operation. So now that I have more pixels, I think I should fix her face. So let's start by looking at mask. So mask mode, you have your brush here, which is selected. You can also select your delete eraser brush. You can also do this with the E and B key, B for brush, E for eraser. And I can simply paint anywhere I like. I'll paint the boot because I want to show you auto mode. If we go to auto masking here, this uses a Comfy UI process. So I'm going to choose face. I can choose hands, person, or face. I can use just box or segment. So let's use box and face here, and I'll press detect. So it's going to look for faces, and it found a human face. It's not so good with animal faces. It's mainly for human faces. So if I select that, it adds a mask where that face is. Segment is segmentation. So it's a bit different. It tries to segment the face like that. So in mask mode, if I use my scroll wheel, I increase or decrease the size of my brush or eraser, which can be very useful. But now I cannot zoom the image. So to change the mode in order to zoom the image, I can hold the control key, and now I can use scroll wheel and click and drag to zoom in on my mask. An important thing to reference is that if you do a mask like this, for example, everything inside this will get detailed. It's like you already created the mask. It's the same thing as doing this, okay? So this process saves a lot of time. So I'm just going to quit. I'm not going to do the tiger here. And I'm just going to leave a mask for her face and for her shoe. So opacity is just the mask opacity, and you can invert how you see the mask. For in certain images, black is probably better, and others, white is fine. You can clear the mask by clicking this button. I don't want to clear my mask right now because I want to use it. So one fast way of coming out of mask mode is if I hold the tab key, I get this menu. So in this menu, I can choose if I want to upscale or detail. Upscale is just going to upscale the whole image, which is what we already done. But in this case, I want to detail. I want to detail the areas that were masked. So I'll do that. Brought into here, and probably a good idea to change the prompt. I can just leave the prompt empty and the model will figure out what is trying to detail. Or I could say beautiful Latino face or beautiful Asian, which will change the features. Beautiful Asian, army boot, because we got an army boot and you got a beautiful Asian. So I'm gonna press Q and let's see what happens. So it's gonna detail these two areas in separate. First it's gonna try to do an army boot. He gave me two boots, but whatever. And he turned the girl into an agent girl. Double army boot. I'm not gonna carry that, but yeah, you can do one thing at a time. Obviously, it gives you more control. So I'm quickly gonna attempt to turn these two paws into one tiger paw. So I just created a mask there. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I wanted to talk about this denoise. So the denoise in detail is very similar to the upscale. The more denoise, the bigger the change. The less denoise, the smaller the change. So I'm going to push this high, and I'm going to try and say single tiger leg and single leg with boot. Human leg. Okay. Before I forget, as I'm trying to get this right, you can also use the delete key in select mode. that will give you this. So I finally got a single leg. It's bigger than the other ones, but whatever. Anyway, these are the first models in this app, which are very old models because they're SDXL models. Newer models will be added soon. We're going to have things, Flux type models, and they are much more responsive, as well as we're going to add things like in painting that can remove areas that we don't want from the picture. Although this detailing workflow can actually work as in painting if you go up with your denoise. Okay, so now we have enough to look at the entries. You can see that these guys still have the masks that we created. These masks will go away once you restart the app. They only stay per session, okay? So I'm happy with this. Well, not very happy, but I know I'm not going to use these two, so I can select them and just press delete and get rid of them. So now if I go back to my gallery, you can see that I'm just going to delete these ones here. You can see that now I have the detail, which is this detail. If I select these again and go back to the gallery, now I got that, the text to image, the original one. And here is where it comes. For example, this. If I say apply, this is the prompt that I use for that, right? And the prompt that I use for this, if I press apply here, was that. So here comes what I mentioned when we reuse prompt. So if I press this and I say original, even though I'm looking at the detailed version, I'm going to get the original prompt. If I instead choose current, I'll get the current prompt and an image. In this case, that image doesn't exist because it was created in here, not in the gallery. But if we had an image that was pulled from the gallery, that would work. Okay, one thing that I didn't mention is when you're here, you can use escape to go to the gallery. So that's a fast way to go to the gallery if you use the escape key. Let's look at the other tools. Let's start with crop. Crop exists for image and video. Right now we're in image. You can see that the crop uses the whole image right now. And we have different resolution types. This is the free crop, so I can do whatever crop I want. And you got the rule of thirds here, so you can actually use the rule of thirds to make everything look nice. And you also have, if you come to resolution type, you can see that we have different crop settings here. 16:9 for social, 4:5. So social doesn't care about specific sizes. Flux and SDXL actually cares about sizes. It does a different type of crop that will kind of respect the 16, the size that would have for SDXL or Flux based models. And if I'm happy with a crop here, I can just press apply, and that's going to create a new entry with my cropped version. And I could now upscale these and change it however I'd like. The same thing goes for video. We'll have a quick look when we're there. Then we have another tool here, which is Resize. You can look at the status bar here as I hover. So the Resize tool gives us a little preview of how it's going to look like. It's not going to apply it directly. And it gives us the original width and height here. You also have these SDXL and Flux selections where you can change the crop to be precisely for SDXL. We have different types here: crop, resize, pad edge. So it's going to pad the edges. You can test by yourself. You got different resize methods. Lanxos, I believe it's probably the best one. So I wouldn't even touch that, to be honest. And you have center, top, bottom, left, and right positionings, which are useful when you use pad edge. You can stretch, you can just resize, you can use crop, whatever suits you. And you can also choose if there's a divisible number here. I'm going to use 32. So divisible is just good because later on when you upscale, you know that it has a divisible number by 16 or 32, and it's good for video, for example, and upscaling methods later on. Then you have your little transform. You can see what happens here. Okay. And your rotation. So rotate by 90 degrees, 180 or 270 or none, which it's the normal rotation. Once you're happy, you can just press apply. And again, this will give you a new entry. Okay, so I kind of like this image. I'm gonna grab this one and I'm gonna make a video out of it. Before I forget, we also have enhance. And so this in enhance for images, we only have upscale. For video, we have upscale and interpolate. I'll get to that later. So the upscale model, this is just a very simple upscale. It's very fast compared to model upscale, which is what I showed you before. It just upscales to any of these values. And you can also choose a model, and that will be upscaling using a model, which will give you a different result. Okay, so let's turn this into a video. So if I click and drag over here to the prompt box, and by the way, you can click and drag a video or an image here, and that will create an entry for anything that you drop in here. So because I have SDXL selected, it gives me upscale because that's the only thing it can do with an image, because we don't have operations for other operations for images at the moment. We will do in the future. So I'm going to choose 1 because it's the only video model in this first edition. And I'm going to go with low because I don't want to wait too long. My system is not that great. So I'm going to just do a 3-second duration here. Actually, you know what? I'll leave it at medium. Motion, so this is duration in seconds, as you can see. Motion is image to video offers you this motion slider, which helps with increasing motion. So if your videos are coming out with very little motion, you can punch this up and see if it comes with better motion. So I'm going to choose 16:9 because that's a 16:9. And I'm also going to turn this on. So you can see in the status bar what this is. It says preview initial stage, low res preview pass before full render. So when I turn this on, it's going to split the video render into 2 stages. And it's going to give me a preview of the first stage. So I'm going to press Q here. I'll pause the video and come back once we have the preview set up, because this is going to take about 5 minutes on my system, I think. So I'll pause the video here. So after a while, because I have this on a hard disk, an HDD, it took a while to load the model, but after loading the model is now generating, and the latents are coming through, and here we go. So the generation was actually pretty quick. It was 32 seconds, you can see here. And what we get is a very low resolution of stage 1 of what's happening. And this is helpful because it gives us the motion that we're going to end up with. So from this point, from this preview, I can actually leave this preview alone and I can go and do other generations, images or videos, and can come back to this preview anytime I like. And what I can do is, if I press this button here, it's going to create the second part, the second stage from here, without creating the first stage as well. So it's a effective continuation of the video. A latent has been saved, and we can continue here and create a new version, several versions from this video if we press this button. What this gives us is the ability to come here and go to the low noise LoRa's and change different low noise LoRa's and have different second stage results. This is the high noise LoRa's, which is the first stage video that influences it. So if I press this button instead, what I'll get is just this card gets replaced with a full video. So I'll press this one and so that we can compare one and the other. Again, it's loading model. I'm on an HDD disk because I didn't have much space, so it's going to take a while to load the model. I would advise you to have your models in an SSD or M.2 disk. Okay, so it loaded the model, is now generating the second stage of the video right there. Okay, so generation finished. You get our little mascot showing up saying generation finished. But if I had the app minimized, I would get an actual notification in my OS. So there we go. That's the finished result. So if I press this button, it's just going to give me this again, a new card with this because I didn't change LoRa's. Okay, so we have our video. Let's open it up and explore video. It messed up my face, so I should probably try it and use high resolution instead of medium. Medium is not enough for this when you have small faces like that, for one. In the future, we're going to add LTX 2.3, so don't worry about that. You'll have different models you can pick from. So here in the video, let's start with the video player controls, which are these ones down here. So the first thing is play pause, which you can also click the video and play pause. You can also use the space bar to play pause. You can see that right now it's looping. Before I get to looping, actually, let's look at this. You can see that I can change frames with these arrows. I can also use the arrow keys in my keyboard to change frames. Here, this button lets you select either use frames, if you look at this while I press this button, or seconds, okay? Usually frames are more useful in this type of workflows. And then you got the loop key, and you can see on the status bar L for loop. So if I use the L key, I can turn on and off the loop. I can also click anywhere here and go to where I want to. And I can also use these start and end handles so that we create a little loop and just stays in that loop. I can also set these guys up with the I key for in and O key for out, okay? Now, this range that I've done here is respected per entry. So if I selected another entry, I could have a different range. And it's also respected for any operation that we create here. So, for example, if I go into transform and I go here to the crop, let's say I'm going to crop this video here, it's only going to crop this area. It's going to create a video with only this area here. So keep in mind the in and out are going to influence the output. So if I press save here, for example, it's going to create a new entry, and you can see that it has the in and out that we have here. So if I play this, and I play this, same thing, okay? It respected that in and out output. And that happens for every tool, by the way. So be careful with this selection loop that you create. So if you need a snapshot from any frame, you can go to that frame and you can click this snapshot. Now remember, this snapshot is gonna respect the crop tool. So if you want a snapshot of the whole thing, you can press free. It will select the whole thing, and then you can create snapshots. When you do create a snapshot, see that it was saved to the gallery. So here's our snapshot, okay? It's saved to the gallery, not that space. In video mode, we also have the Resize tool. I'm not going to go over it because we already been over this, but it's basically the same thing as in image mode. And then we have our simple upscale. In this first version, this is the only way to upscale video. It doesn't do a big change, to be honest. With model, you can see a bit more change if you upscale with a model, if you select the model there. And then we have the Interpolate. So as you can see, this is a 16 FPS video at the moment. So if I interpolate by 2, I'll press Interpolate here. ConfUI is going to interpolate this and add extra frames. And then I get a 32, which is the double 32 FPS video with smoother action. Okay. And again, as you can see, it only interpolated this section that is in the trim bar, trimmed. For video, we have a context menu. If you right click or press the context key on your keyboard on the video, you have these options. You can create a reversed video version that will create a new entry with a reversed selection. You can also set the current frame to be the start frame or the end frame. So if I do that, you can see that now it's the start frame and I can do a video from that start frame. I can also set a drop end frame as well in that manner. And you can also drag and drop images from your file system into these little boxes. Now, another thing that we can look at is, for example, let's go into this one here, which ends like that. We can use extend, and this will extend the source video with the generated continuation. So if I just press that, it's going to extend this video from the last frame. It's going to use the last frame and do an extension. I should probably have written something down here. I forgot, but it will use whatever is in the prompt to extend from the last frame of this video. Obviously, while this is doing this, I could go back into the gallery and do other things. This is in the queue right now. At the moment, the only extension that the app offers is from last frame, which is pretty basic. In the future, we'll try to add some better extension options that actually read the last frames instead of just the last frame. So extend is going to create the video that we already had with the extension at the end. And the difference between extend and create new is that create new is actually just going to create a video from the end frame and onwards. So this one that we created has the two videos connected. And you could clearly see that gap. Boop. That's because I didn't write a prompt and the first turnaround didn't came out so nice. Also, you can see the gap happened because when I created the crop, this was from a crop, I didn't create a 9:16 crop. So it started there and then it goes to 9:16. That's why we have that pop, that huge pop there. I honestly would advise to create new instead, because you can always click one of these, use Control and click another one, and then you can right click and combine them at the end if you're happy with the result. Okay, so going back to the gallery page, I probably don't want to use this, so I can just right click and delete that. I'm probably forgetting things in this tutorial, but let me just do this that I just remembered, which is first frame and last frame. You can just drag two images with the 2.2 model selected, and this will do the first frame, last frame operation. So I think that's it for this hands-on tutorial. I'll probably do some follow-up tutorials as we update, add more modules and operations to this app. Don't forget to that Patreon is the sole support platform for this application. So if you want to support this application, go to my Patreon and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video.